I decided to try a dating app because I was feeling really bored and pretty lonely. This happened last year when things were starting to calm down a bit. I'd used a dating app once before and met some okay people. Nothing too special, just the usual. But that last time, that was it. I'll never use a dating app again. I met this girl named Haley. She seemed alright, which is why I agreed to meet her in the first place. I thought she was cute, and I wanted to connect with someone. Things seemed good, so we planned to meet up. Let me tell you, things took a wild turn. You hear those scary stories about people meeting strangers from the internet, but you never really think it'll happen to you. I thought the same way, thought it was all unlikely. I thought maybe we'd go grab a bite or catch a movie, but she insisted on coming to my place. I made up a reason, mostly because my place was a mess and I just wanted to be out for a change. But she was adamant. She said we could only hang out at my house. I should have seen that as a warning sign, but I guess I didn't pay enough attention. She was pretty, and I was feeling lonely. I think she knew that too, and she used it to her advantage. Eventually, I caved and said she could come over. I had time to clean up the mess and get myself ready. She texted when she arrived, and I let her in. At first, things were awkward. I noticed she looked a bit different from her Tinder picture, but I didn't want to be rude by bringing it up. I'm not exactly a looker myself, so I let it slide and we started chatting. Everything seemed fine until she asked if I had any alcohol. I mentioned having some Jameson, but I wasn't in the mood for it. I went to the bathroom and when I returned, she had made a drink for me, sitting on the table. I grabbed a beer instead. After a few beers, I reluctantly drank the mixed drink she'd made, even though she kept pushing it. I felt odd about it, thinking she might have spiked it while I was away, but I shrugged it off. I figured I was just overthinking. But about 10 or 20 minutes later, things got weird. I started feeling dizzy and faint. Then, I passed out completely. I don't know how long I was out, maybe 5 hours. When I woke up, it was still dark. I slowly realized something was seriously wrong. My whole body hurt, and I had bruises and cuts all over. There was blood everywhere in my room. I panicked and searched for my phone to call the police, but it was gone. She'd taken it, along with my TVs, jewelry, and cash from my safes. My house was a disaster. She'd wrecked everything. I looked in the mirror and had a breakdown. I couldn't believe this was happening. There was a disturbing pentagram drawn on the wall using my blood. I managed to find an old phone and called a friend for help. The police came, and I gave them all the info I could, but my Tinder account was gone. It wouldn't have mattered much, I'm pretty sure I was catfished. The cops couldn't find those responsible. I moved to a new house and beefed up security with cameras and alarms. I'm less scared now, but it was a terrifying experience. I can't forget that night. It's like a nightmare I can't wake up from. It's taught me to be more cautious, to trust my instincts. I wish I'd seen the warning signs. Now, I urge everyone to stay safe, to be vigilant. It might just save your life. In the heart of summer, 3 years back, I found myself stuck in a world of boredom. My days were filled with endless chores and a suffocating lack of friends. See, my dad wasn't just strict, he was downright abusive, making sure I had no life outside our four walls. My only escape was a phone he got me a month before everything went haywire. Tinder was my secret solace, a place where I could meet people without his watchful eyes. But sneaking around meant I had to erase any trace of it each night before he took my phone. One night, Dad stumbled home late, drunker than usual. He missed the usual phone confiscation time, giving me a small window of freedom. That's when I met Alex, a 28-year-old guy. His age gave me a boost, made me feel seen. Looking back, it was kinda creepy, but back then, it felt exciting. Soon, he offered me an escape, a chance to live with him. It was tempting, but terrifying too. He agreed to pick me up at midnight. I asked to just hang out instead, stalling for time. The plan was for him to park away from my place so Dad wouldn't hear. But as I snuck out, I realized something was off. The driveway was silent, no sign of Alex's car. Instead, there were whispers, eerie laughs, and hushed conversations. That's when I heard it, words that made my blood freeze. Alex was planning something horrific, something about keeping me alive for as long as possible. I bolted, hid in the woods, and prayed he didn't find me. He texted, called, and I foolishly answered, trying to lie my way out. But he knew, got furious, and threatened me, saying he knew where I lived. It was petrifying. I blocked him everywhere, confided in my grandma, and left without telling Dad, fearing for my life. After the scary night with Alex, life felt like walking on eggshells. I thought about telling the police, but they needed proof. It was just me versus the fear. Things got weird. Strange messages appeared, and someone seemed to be watching. It might have been Alex or someone else playing a cruel game. Then, an old newspaper came, hinting at similar disappearances. I did some digging and found a connection. People vanished after using a dating app. After the strange happenings, I felt like I had to do something. So, I went to the police again. I told them about the creepy messages and the newspaper clippings hinting at missing people. This time, they listened. They started looking into it. They checked the dating app, trying to find any connections. It was like a puzzle for them to solve. Days went by, and I got a call from an unknown number. Someone whispered they knew what I was up to, and then the line went dead. It felt like someone was always watching. The police got a lead. They caught someone they thought was part of it all. But it wasn't the guy from that scary night. This person told them about a group of bad people using the app for terrible things. The trial happened, and this person spilled the beans about the group. They got in trouble, but Alex, the guy who scared me, was still out there. It left me feeling uneasy, like the fear wasn't over yet. The whole thing taught me a big lesson. Sometimes dangers hide in places we don't expect. It's a reminder to be cautious, especially with stuff online. In the dark of night, I decided to meet up with this guy I'd been talking to on a dating app. His name was Mark, and he seemed nice enough in our chats. We'd texted a lot and talked a bit on the phone. Looking back, I should have insisted on a video call, just to be sure. But, well, I didn't, and that was my first mistake. Mark suggested I come over to his place one Friday night after he finished work. I wasn't really up for a hookup. I wanted to get to know him better first. You know how it goes, right? Sometimes it's hard to tell a guy's real intentions. Most guys these days just want that one thing. I get it, but I hoped for something more genuine. His profile photos were typical outdoorsy, fishing, all-American kinda guy. We even bonded over stuff like faith, which made me feel comfortable. Looking back, I realize he probably used that to gain my trust. His place was about a 15-minute drive from mine, in a quiet neighborhood that seemed pretty new. Not many houses were lived in yet. I parked by the roadside, sent a quick text to my sister about where I was in the address, just in case. Then I walked up to the porch, heart pounding with nerves. I knocked on the door, twice, but no one answered. Weird, right? I double-checked the address Mark had given me, and yep, it was the wrong house. He messaged, saying I was at the wrong place and that he could see me 2 houses over. Google Maps can be a bit off sometimes, right? I headed toward the house he described. The porch light was on, and I could see lights inside. But as I got closer, the inside lights suddenly switched off. That's when my gut told me something was off. I stood there, feeling a bit stuck. There weren't many people around if things went sideways. Another message from Mark popped up, asking if I was coming in, with a laughing emoji. Strange, right? But I kept walking. As I reached the door, it was open, but it was pitch black inside. That's when my instincts screamed, nope. I turned to leave, and then, a girl's voice called out from the darkness, inviting me in. She had a drink in her hand. I declined and bolted back to my car. As I drove away, I checked the app, and Mark had blocked me. No explanation, nothing. That sealed it for me. Something was definitely wrong. Why wouldn't he just come to the door? Later on, a text from Mark came, apologizing for what happened. My friend suggested looking up his number, and guess what? The owner was 28, named Alex. That confirmed it. I was being catfished. I shudder to think what could have happened. Maybe things wouldn't have gone south if that girl hadn't tried to lure me inside with a drink. It's chilling to know how close I came to whatever they had planned. Trust me, when those red flags wave, it's not worth taking the risk.